I'm Phyllis from southernfrugal.com. I wanted to sort of bring y'all up to date on our, I guess, adventures in mountain rest. That's what we'll call it. So we've been up there. We were up there for a number of days, and we went up there to really try to get a garden planted. But the problem was it started raining. And so the first night up there, I think it rained all night long, and of course you couldn't even get in the garden. You'd sink up that deep just walking out in there. So we really couldn't plant the garden. So then we were waiting for it to dry out, and then it rained again, and so then we still waited, and we thought, okay, a couple more sunny days, and it just kept on. I mean, it rained a lot. So anyway, I guess we're at the point now where we're going to just plant an early fall garden at some point here in the next month or two, I guess. That's what we'll do. But anyway, it's all tilled up and ready, but I did want to till it up one more time before we plant it. So I guess we're really talking fall garden here. All right. So I wanted to bring you up to date on some of the things that happened while we were there. First of all, we have, if y'all look back, and I'll put a link down below, when we were there in January and looked at the property and then in fact bought the property, I did pictures of the little camping trailer, and then there's one of those garage carport things that's over it. And so some birds built a nest up in one corner of it. Now, we've got a little patio like under that carport area as well as the camping trailers under it. And so we can sit out there, and it's really nice. Even when it's raining, we can sit out there. But anyway, some birds built a nest up in the corner. And they built a nest out of mud and sticks and whatever. And the last time we were there, they, of course, had 4 babies in there, and they were feeding them, and we kind of enjoyed watching them. And we didn't know what kind of birds they were, but they were pretty birds. But anyway, we decided to look it up and find out what kind they were. And it turned out they're called eastern phoebes, and they actually stay in that area year-round. There's a little, I looked it up, I Googled it, and there's like a purple area. I think they're in Tennessee and southern Tennessee, and just a little strip in there where they just stay all year long. But anyway, so now they're on their second group of babies, and again, there are 4 in there. And they're up, fairly high. I would say they were a good, I don't know, 10 to 12 feet off the ground in that little nest. So we found out that eastern phoebes eat flies, so that's why we hadn't really had any problem with flies. Well, Mr. Bucky was working on building the steps from the trailer. There were already steps there, but there was no banister type rail on it. And I was always afraid the dogs were going to fall off, and in fact, Peppy did fall off one time. He didn't really get hurt, but he fell off. All 3 of them come to the door, and they're jumping all around, and he fell off. So anyway, Mr. Bucky decided he'd build a rail and put 2 handrails down the side of the steps so that nobody falls off, including us, really. Yeah, including us. So anyway, he was working on that, and he was out there pretty much all day putting up the pickets and everything on the porch, and the flies were terrible. I mean, terrible. Every time anybody went out and in, a couple of flies would come in. I was in there killing flies. Finally, I got just fed up with that, and I went outside. We had 2 fly swads. So I went outside, and I was killing them, and Mr. Bucky was killing them. And we couldn't figure out. We just had an influx of flies. So next morning, we were sitting there having our smoothies at the breakfast table, and I was just looking out the window. And I noticed the birds were catching the flies. So the problem there was Mr. Bucky was out on that little carport area or little patio area working on the steps, and so the birds weren't catching the flies. So when we would come in, they would be darting all around catching all the flies. So anyway, now that he finished the porch, we have no fly problem again. So we want to keep those birds for sure. All right, so I wanted to get on to the chiggers. Now, somebody's already written in and said they didn't know what a chigger was. Okay, a chigger is we used to call them red bugs. because they're really very, very small, and you can really only see them with a little magnifying glass. I mean, I can somewhat see them with just, my eyes, but they actually get on you from, they like a moist area, and and of course we had a lot of rain, so that gave them the moist area. But they get on the ends of tall grass and vegetation that's rotten and wet and that kind of thing. And they get on you, and you don't really know they're on you because you can't really see them, but they make a really big red whelp really on you. And it takes it about, I'd say, 2 to 3 weeks to get well. So the red bugs or chiggers, I think if you looked it up on Google, you'd look up chiggers, and even if you looked up red bugs, it would probably come up chiggers, and you could read about them, and you could also see a picture of them. Now, they're sort of a cross between a spider and a tick. That's the way I would describe them, sort of somewhere in between. And the only ones I've ever seen were bright red, and they're real, real little though. But if you feel something itching you there, and you look real, real good in the light and everything, you can actually see them. Now, what they do is they don't suck blood. They eat skin cells, and I guess they want fresh skin cells. So what they do is inject a little bit of saliva into you, and it actually causes your skin cells to liquefy, and then they suck that up. I know this sounds really bad, but I'm just telling you what they do. And when they inject you, what happens is your own cells start dissolving, and it creates a little crater in your skin. Now, it's not something you could like openly see, but it'll actually be a little hole there, and it starts running clear liquid, just clear liquid, and itching like crazy. I mean, worse than any mosquito bite you've ever had. It itch hurts. That's the way I would describe it. But if you don't know that they're there, by the time they've already made a little red mark, you're too late, because it's gonna, wait a minute, let me see if I can turn that around. See? Can y'all see that? Now this one is, of course, getting well, but the red thing is a little scab, and but it oozed, the liquid for really a couple of days, and at one point it was like that big around, puffed out, because what your body does is it starts reacting to the invasion, and so you get swelling and itching, and it actually can keep you awake at night. It really can, and that's what it did to me 2 nights in a row. And of course, what you want is for them to not get infected. So you don't want to, scratch them too much, because they will get infected, and then you got another problem. But anyway, to make a long story short on the chiggers, Mr. Bucky was working on the little porch, so I decided I would take my little Black & Decker saw that has a battery, one of those lithium batteries in it. I love my little saw. And the blade on it's about that long, and it's really, really good. So I thought I would just go out and take some of the limbs and kind of cut them up a little bit so we could get them in the truck to, take to the dump. And so one particular area, a tree that was about that big around, had broken off maybe about 3 feet, from the ground. And it was just laying all out there. So I thought, well, I'll just cut all those limbs off, and then I'll cut the trunk in about 3 different sections, because our landfill in Oconee County, you can't bring anything over 6 foot long. So I cut it up into 3 sections, and was, standing. I had on, my work clothes, so I had on long sleeves and long pants and socks and shoes and everything. But we've had no red bug problem until now, right? Until now. So anyway, I was climbing all in between where the tree had fallen and cutting the limbs off, so they kind of touched me everywhere, really. So there's another one on my wrist. Can y'all see that? Now, what happens is it comes up into a little bubble of just clear liquid, and it'll finally just pop. Now, the the chigger is long gone when that happens. They don't stay on you long. And it's really I mean, I don't know if it's the pupa stage or the crawly stage or whatever stage they're in. After they feed, then they drop and I guess form into another form or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's interesting reading to look them up. So in this country, we only have two kinds, and neither one of them spread disease, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, in other countries, chiggers can spread disease, but not in this country. So anyway, so I got covered with them. I did. I just got covered with them. And of course, you don't know you've got them until many hours later, and you might go, oh, well, something's itching right, and you just scratch it. You don't pay any attention. And then you go to take your shower, and you see yourself. I mean, it looks like you got some kind of dread disease. It does. Anyway, let me show you, see if you can see one on my neck here. Oh, there's one, and there's another one there. And I've got many others, other places. On my legs, I had a whole bunch. I even had one on my ankle, on my Achilles tendon back there. And all of them form that little blister that's about the size of a small pea, and then it'll pop. And then when it pops, they itch and they burn. And then it runs really for a day or so. So I ended up staying in the travel trailer all day one day and just had on my lounge pants because they were all running. So anyway, once they form a little scab, and they pretty well quit itching then, and you're on your way to mending. But at one point I was actually running a temperature from these things. So the interesting thing is that with the three dogs running all around, and of course they were out there with me when I was cutting all the limbs off that tree that had fallen, they never got a chigger on them. And chiggers will get on dogs, cats, rabbits, anything that they can get on and feed on some of those cells. They never got any. And I would have to attribute that to this natural flea spray and tick spray thing I'm using, because chiggers are somewhat related to ticks, and apparently they didn't like the dogs. They only got on me. So I'm thinking next time I'm spraying that stuff on my clothes. Now, the other thing that will work is DEET. And we don't like DEET. Mr. Bucky had a bad reaction to some DEET spray several years ago. He actually had to go to a dermatologist because he broke out and they would never get well. And so he had to actually get medication. So we've never really used anything with DEET in it since then. Now, I'm not allergic to it, and I might just try it next time. But I'm also going to try some of the flea spray that I use for the dogs, that all-natural type. So anyway, I wanted to get on to the more interesting part of this. Now, I ended up, I counted them on my body, 25 of the chigger bites, and then 2 more we found later on my leg that I didn't even know was there because I was so busy scratching all the others, So anyway, it's the worst case of chiggers I have ever had. So anyway, and I have heard the thing about putting a little thing of fingernail polish on them. And now we never did that. When we used to go blackberry picking, we would always get chiggers. And my grandmother would dip a little cloth in kerosene and put it on the wrist and on the ankles. And we never got them when we did that, but that's probably kind of dangerous, right? But anyway, that's what she did, and we didn't get them once she started doing that. And I thought about that. Of course, we didn't have any kerosene, but I didn't know we had chiggers up there, right? I didn't know. I found out, though. But anyway, so, of course, there were no ticks or anything. We didn't run into any ticks. Because last time, Steely got one tick in his ear, and, of course, I wasn't spraying up under, their ear flap, and that's where it was. So this time I used some cotton. Somebody wrote in and suggested that little cotton ball and soaked it in the solution and put it all around their ears. So nobody got any ticks this time. And of course they didn't get any chiggers either. So anyway, that's the story of the chiggers, or red bugs as we call them. Anyway, so I was sort of out of commission for a couple of days because I was really miserable. I really was. And so anyway, the other thing that happened was to do with a snake. Now, we were getting ready to leave. And and I know if y'all have got a camper, once you leave or getting ready to leave, you do all these things. You have to, well, we're connected directly to a septic tank, so we don't have to empty tanks or anything. But there are things you do. You cut off your electricity, you cut off the water, and make sure everything's secured before you leave. So that's what I was doing my part of that. Mr. Bucky had cut the water off and cut the electricity off, and we'd like to leave those louvered windows, is what they are, open just a little bit, just so the trailer airs out, So that's what I was doing. I was back in the bedroom, and the bedroom has got actually 3 windows in it, one on the back side and on both sides, and the door, the second door to go out. And so I was back there. I had already closed the biggest window, and so I was closing the little window. Now, when I say louvered, it's got those little things of glass about like that, and they go out and in. When you close it, of course, everything's smooth, and you open it, and they go out. It'd be like, I don't know how to, in layers. They were in this particular window. It's really at the foot of the bed. Has, I think, 3 louvers in it, and the window's not all that big, but we keep them open at night because, of course, in the mountains it's cool and so nice at night. So we don't run air conditioner or anything. We have the windows open, so that part's really, really nice. Okay, so to the point. So I was doing my part of getting ready to leave, and Mr. Bucky was out doing his part. And so I actually sat down on the end of the bed to turn the little crank to close the window. And I looked and I thought, oh my goodness, the little the rubber gauge thing that goes around the window that seals it has come loose. I couldn't believe it. I thought, oh my goodness, we're going to have to fix that before we leave, because it was a big gap about that wide that had come loose. And so I stopped. I had already started closing the window, so I stopped closing it, and I was trying to look at it to see how are we going to fix this. I figured we could get a screwdriver and shove it back in. Now, it was on the outside, and there was a screen there, and then the screen, and then the windows that opened back and forth of the little slats of glass. So I was really inspecting it from the inside to see how we would need to fix that. And then it moved. It wiggled a little bit. I went, oh, wait a minute. What is that? It was a moccasin, and he was about 3 feet long. And he was all curled up in that lower louver on the window, and it was dark, and it looked like the rubber stuff that goes around those windows. It's about that wide that goes around them to seal them. Excuse me. And so, anyway, I thought, oh, wait a minute, what is this? And I when I first looked, I thought, oh, this is a black snake, no problem. But I couldn't tell where his head was because he was all twisted around inside that bottom louver. Now, bear in mind, the screen was between me and the snake. And still thinking it's a black snake, but I was trying to figure out where his head was. And I couldn't quite see it. And finally, I saw it. He was all curled around, and his tail was up this way, and he was doubled all around, and then his head was over on this side. And I saw his head. Now, I know what a black snake looks like, and this was no black snake. He had a little white under his chin, and the more I looked at him, the more I realized he was mottled looking. He was kind of a charcoaly gray, mottled looking. And I thought, oh, that looks like a moccasin. What is he doing up in my window? And so then I realized he was after the birds, the baby birds, because there are 4 baby birds up there. And the mama and papa bird had not seen the snake, or they'd have been screaming and hollering. They had not seen the snake. but he was flat after those birds. So what he had done is he had crawled up on the back bumper of the travel trailer. Then he had gone from there to the little light that sticks out about that far, and then he was able to reach that window and get sort of up under that glass, and he was there waiting to see how he was going to go on up, because he was going to go after those birds. So anyway, I called Mr. Bucky. I said, "Oh, you've got to come in here. Something's wrong." And so Mr. Bucky came in, and he said, "Oh, that window's come loose." And he went to reach for it, and of course I grabbed his hand. I said, "Bucky, that's a snake." And he went, "Snake?" And he went to reach for it again. I said, "No, don't touch it. It's a snake." And of course it was on the outside of the screen, but of course the screen's just that plastic screen, right? And so anyway, then he saw him move, because the snake moved his head around a little bit. And I'm like, "Oh, what are we going to do?" So we finally figured out, I didn't want to kill him. I mean, snakes eat mice and all that. They also eat baby birds. So I really didn't want to kill the snake. So, of course, Mr. Bucky wanted to kill him. But I said, "Well, let's don't kill him, you know. They do good, you know. We just don't want them on our travel trailer." So anyway, I go and I get, we'd already taken the garbage out to take it to the composting place, and so the garbage can was clean. It's a big, tall garbage can we were using, and it has a lid. So I said, "Well, you take the garbage can and hold it up there, and I'll take the end of the broom and kind of knock him off in the can. You just slam the lid on it, and we can take him somewhere and let him go." So we did that. And of course, in the process, when I first pushed him with the back end of the broom, he reared up and struck at the screen. Now, we were on the outside, of course, but when he struck at the screen, I could see those fangs. I mean, he's definitely a poisonous snake. So anyway, we get him in the garbage can, got the lid on it. So then what do we do with him, right? I mean, if we let him go right there, he's just going to come back and try to get the birds later. So anyway, we ended up taking him all the way down the road, and I took the broom with me because I didn't want him coming back, you know, towards us. So Mr. Bucky dumped him out the road, and he started coming back at us. So I took the broom. Now, he was about 3 feet long, but I think he was a little worn out and scared probably. So I took the broom and pushed him real hard so he would go back, you know, on the other side of the road. And he came back again. And I'm like, "What are we going to do here?" And of course, Mr. Bucky goes, "Oh, we should have killed him when we had the chance." And but it was too late then, because the shovel was all the way back at the house. So anyway, I pushed him again. Still he wouldn't go. He was coming back our way. So finally I just pushed him all the way across the road into the heavy grass. And he finally figured out at that point he was going to have to go. So then a mountain bluebird was sitting up on the light, the power line, and he came flying in, rah, rah, you know, screaming and hollering at the snake. And at that distracted the snake, so then he went on into the woods. Hopefully he won't come back to our house. But anyway, so that's the story on the snake. Now, Mr. Bucky gave his devotions this morning on the pestilence and what we could do, because we do consider chiggers, ticks, flies, and even snakes kind of become a pestilence to us because they bother us. The chiggers bite, the ticks get on you, the flies spread disease, and on it goes. And of course, this snake was poisonous, and we didn't want him eating the little baby birds, and we didn't want the mom and papa birds to fly away because they're eating the flies, right? So anyway, so he sort of did the devotions this morning on pestilence, and we needed to hear that, because I do believe we don't live under the curse of the law anymore. We live under grace, and so part of the curse of the law in the Bible is the pestilence. And so, you know, the birds were taking care of the flies, and I don't know what we're going to do, what's going to take care of the chiggers, but hopefully they will be, and I'm going to have my defenses on next time I work out in the wilderness there, because that's what it's like. It's like wilderness. So our property, we only have 2 neighbors, one in sort of the back of us and one over to the side of us. And everything else is national forest. And so one night we were laying there just right ready to go to sleep, and we heard the meow, meow, sound like, you know how cats do. It sounded like a cat, but then when it did it again, Mr. Bucky said, "That's no house cat we're listening to." And then it wasn't long before we heard coyotes hollering. So I don't know what was going on, but I think Mr. Bucky said he thought it was a bobcat, so that I wouldn't be afraid of a bobcat, but I sure would be afraid of a cougar or a puma or whatever we call them in those areas, panthers, I don't know. But I do think it was some kind of bigger cat, and got connected somehow with some coyotes, because I do recognize the sound of coyotes. I know what they sound like. And they were screaming, and the cat was doing his thing, and then all of a sudden we didn't hear anything. And it didn't sound like it was that far away either. I would say it was in the forest sort of next to us is where that happened. So anyway, so now we watch the dogs, and we're just going to have to be a little more careful. And of course, Bucky says next time we go up there, we take the gun. So we take the gun, yeah, because I mean, I don't want something trying to, get after one of the dogs. Now we watch them really close, but they do go out for their last time to go out and take care of their business. I don't know, it's probably usually about 10:30 at night. And now we do have lights outside, but anyway, we want to watch them pretty close, So anyway, all right, so those are our adventures up there. We have decided we're just going to go ahead and try to plant an early fall garden. Because of all the rain, we just couldn't do much. And we've got some work we want to do on the travel trailer. On the inside, everything works fine. There's no problem there, but we really want to take that little booth out and turn the table around so we have a little more room there in the kitchen and that kind of thing. So anyway, I hope this wasn't too long. If y'all got any suggestion on chiggers and what to do, I mean, I'm thinking maybe we could spray something outside. I don't know. But I know you have to keep the grass mowed and all that kind of thing. Of course, on 2 acres, it's kind of difficult where you got all those trees out there and everything. So I don't know how we're going to do that. But anyway, I even actually read up on what the Army does, because their soldiers go on maneuvers and everything when they're in training. I even looked that up to see what they did, because they have a problem with chiggers, particularly in the South. And I mean, it can put you out of commission. I found that out. I had never had this many chigger bites in my whole life, probably put together. So I just wasn't prepared. What can I say? All right, so that's the story of our little adventures. We are going to be probably going back up there in a couple of weeks. We kind of got to get me healed from all the chigger bites and get stuff taken care of around here, and then we'll be going back up, and hopefully we can dodge some of the rain and get a garden planted up there, hopefully. All right, so we will see y'all next time. Please leave comments below if you've had experience with chiggers and water moccasins, or whatever they're called, eastern moccasin snakes. All right, we'll talk to y'all later.